Watch this.
The responses to a seemingly benign sign in a middle school classroom, they're continuing to pile up. And now the Wasserman Center for Human Rights is saying it's time to talk about the message and what it says about Idahoans.
I don't think in principle a poster that looks like that should be political.
Except it has become political because of skin color? If everyone is already supposed to be welcome here, well, that hasn't been the experience for one West Ada family. And while we wait to hear an explanation from the school district, others are still waiting for some sort of explanation about what's happening in D.C. Today, they took those concerns directly to Senator Mike Crapo, except access wasn't exactly complimentary in more ways than one. Gotta be honest, when Sarah Inama shared her story 1 week ago today, we had no idea it was going to garner the attention it did. Last month, she was asked to remove a poster from her Lewis and Clark middle school classroom. An "Everyone is Welcome Here" poster because, well, the West Ada School District told her it violated their neutrality policy. She was told everyone is welcome here is a personal opinion, and not everyone believes it. Well, it turns out more people believe it than maybe the largest school district in the state expected, because as this was going global, the Wasserman Center for Human Rights, right here in Boise, started an "Everyone is Welcome Here" campaign. And at first, they just wanted to show support for the teacher. It made an Instagram post with the sign, but as Hunter Funk found out, it's turned into something much more for the community.
The last few days have been pretty wild.
6 days ago, a small post created a big response. The next day, 70 organizations joined in saying Idaho should be a place where everyone feels safe.
I think it's important that we celebrate signs like that because everyone needs to be welcome in order to foster an environment where people can be free to learn and free to grow and free to be themselves.
Now, more than 170 businesses and individuals have joined in.
Inclusion is obviously incredibly important to us, and not only for students, not only for businesses, but individuals in our entire community. So we posted the sign as a support, obviously, to Sarah, and to also just make it clear that by removing inclusion, you're supporting something else, because you're supporting exclusion.
The Wasserman Center's development coordinator, Sierra Padilla Hewitt, says the support's been incredible and says creating a sense of belonging for students to learn and grow starts with a simple concept.
At the center, we teach based off of a model called the spiral of injustice, and that first stop on the spiral of injustice is language.
The Center for Human Rights post says history has shown us that words matter and that there's been exclusionary signs before denying people based on race, religion, or identity. It also says those messages didn't just reflect discrimination, it promoted it, and that this is their way, that Idaho is choosing a different path, supporting the signs that support all students. And if saying everyone is welcome is seen as unacceptable, what does that tell our students about who belongs? Sierra hopes this situation gets people talking, and that they take this messaging of inclusion and bring it to the corners of the community.
Beyond just this one sign, it's our goal to really bring us all together as a community in a stronger way through education and through collaboration and conversation and all the ways that we can just come together.
And Sierra says change happens close to home and encourages people to come to the Wasserman Center and check out some of their programming. It's a place where people can have conversations around discrimination, language, and history.
And it's amazing how this thing has kind of taken fire and moved
Yeah.
across. And we still, by the way, have not received any sort of explanation from the West Ada School District. What about this "Everyone is Welcome Here" poster is so violating when it comes to their policy?
And I think that's one of the big questions, too, by all these groups and organizations that are saying, we support this.
Right.
We've got your back, Sarah, and the whole community. We've got your back. So, yeah.
We're hearing speculation. It's everything from the skin tones that are on the poster to design elements, just all kinds of things, but still waiting. All right, thank you very much, Hunter. So the reaction to the "Everyone is Welcome" sign here in sixth grade, teacher Sarah Inama's classroom, it's been vast and it's been rather fast, as we just talked about. For the past week, several parents and teachers from around the West Ada School District sent us emails and text messages telling us, this isn't an isolated incident. It's just the one where a teacher decided to push back and stand up and refuse to remove the poster. For example, This bulletin board was up in the hallway of the Seven Oaks Elementary in Eagle in anticipation of Kindness Week, which happens in February, which happened last month. You see it has various inspirational quotes like "better together," "be kind," and "everyone is welcome here." Right there, yeah. It also has rainbows on it and skin tones, even flags from other countries, which one would assume represented kids from those countries who now go to school at Seven Oaks. One parent told us that display was taken down at the end of January after a now deleted Instagram account posted about it, asking parents to show up to the school on a Monday to protest that bulletin board. However, before that could happen, this parent told us over the weekend, the prior weekend, the school had the display removed. Then there's this flag display at Desert Sage Elementary. Desert Sage has a large refugee population, and for years, flags of the countries from where their students came from adorn the hallways of the school, from Rwanda to Afghanistan to Myanmar. Nearly 36 flags. And these flags have been up for years until they were told to take them down a few weeks ago. The teacher that reached out to us told us they were notified by the West Ada School District the flags on the wall violated the district policy, which was updated in 2023, but not enforced until the middle of February. And of course, there's also a bill sitting on the governor's desk that would make any other flag besides the U.S. flag, the state of Idaho flag, or the flag of the school illegal to display on school grounds. So there's been a district-wide push to remove all indicators of skin tones or colors of the rainbow or flags celebrating the diversity of the student body because of outside influences. The district stance: we don't need artwork or pictures or posters or flags to show value to our students. And maybe that's true, but we've also gotten a lot of emails and messages that say otherwise. They say there are bigger issues within West Ada, and removing posters or displays of diversity could be seen as reinforcing the message not everyone believes everyone is welcome here. Today, we met a family who adopted a daughter from Uganda 10 years ago. This is Abby and her new sister, Ansley. It's on the right. This week, Abby arrived. This is the week they took this picture the week Abby arrived in Idaho. They're the same age, so it's no surprise they've become very close over the years. Abby told us she never thought of herself as quote unquote black until she got to middle school because, well, she was no longer the only one. Abby and Ansley were 8th graders, I should say, at Victory Middle School up until a couple of weeks ago when they became homeschool kids because of how Abby was being treated at school.
I kind of started figuring out that like people were being mean to Abby more in 7th grade because that's when like it all kind of like blew up, I guess. I remember somebody telling me, do you get the N-word pass from Abby? And the N-word pass is basically something where if you know somebody, like somebody who's black, like the person who's black gives you the N-word pass so you can just say it to whoever you want and like whenever you want. Yeah, and I was like, well, that's ridiculous because why would I ever want to say that? Like that hurts people. So that's like kind of when I figured out like, oh wow, like racism like is happening. The hard thing was like a lot of it was happening in like the hallways, I feel like, because that was when I was more with her, so I knew more. And I think a lot of people did it in the hallways because there were many teachers around to hear it.
So you heard it too then?
Yeah, I have heard people say racist things to Abby.
Were you being singled out because of the color of your skin? Were you told, were you called names, those kind of things?
Yeah, like when I'd like walk in the hallways or like wherever I was, like I would constantly be hearing like the N-word either to me or like to someone else. And the jokes that would go around like, oh, go pick cotton, or like in like class, like they'd say it to me like, oh, get back to work, or like, no one wants you here, like.
Really?
Yeah, like to me. And that's when I knew like, well, yeah, they're talking about me or to me.
How'd that make you feel?
Definitely singled out because not very many people like, or like at all ever like had my back. There was an instance where like the N-word was said of like a lot of times, and then in class I like decided like, well, that really hurt my feelings, so I face-to-face told the person, and she just said, well, I say it, and shrugged off and started laughing. And it hurt my feelings because there was another person there, and I thought she was gonna like stand up for me or something, but like she didn't say anything. When that happened, I for sure thought those kids were gonna say something, because like I hung out with them. But when they didn't, it kind of seemed like they didn't really like care or like have my back, and like it just really hurt because everybody wants to like have people who have their back and will like stand up for them and just show that like we care about you. But when like no one did, I just felt like alone again. So it didn't feel like I had any room to like escape really, like, and feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
She didn't feel like this is where she was supposed to be. She didn't feel welcome at school. Her parents made it clear the school administration listened to their concerns and steps were being made to address the issues. But it was an incident that happened on the bus the year before that ultimately led to the decision to take their daughters out of school. One day there was a kid who was harassing another kid who was black, trying to get him to move to the back of the bus. And this kid, Abby told us, doing the harassing, well, he had an app on his phone which made a whipping sound. And so he went about pretending to whip this black student while using the sound effect on his phone. And then he did the same thing to Abby. And we were told disciplinary actions were taken, but that did not stop the harassment Abby received from that boy's friends, accusing her of overreacting and getting him in trouble for nothing. And that harassment, well, that continued throughout this year until it became too much. That's when Abby's parents, one a teacher within the Westgate School District, the other a pastor at an East Boise church. They took both their daughters out of school because they were tired of seeing Abby basically being punished for someone else's actions.
It's heartbreaking, and it makes you angry, and it makes you upset that anybody would talk to your beautiful daughter that way or joke in that way. And so we went to the administration there, and we did feel like we appreciated the conversations we were having. We appreciated some steps that were being made. But it just got to the point where these weren't just isolated incidences. This was her almost daily experience. And then there's the backlash of the fact that you told, and yes, that's protected too, but that's just really overwhelming to put on your daughter. It just became too much. It was just too pervasive at that point in time.
Is this a district problem, or is it bigger than that?
I think that it's not necessarily a district problem or even an issue with the teachers and the administrators in the building. I think that there's just so few of them and so many students.
I mean, is taking signs like this out, is that a good thing, or is that not necessarily a good thing?
Well, I mean, we're just a family telling our story, right? But from the outside looking in, it feels like the problem with the poster is kind of the spectrum of skin tones on it. And so, I mean, if there's a better explanation, I'd love for that to be kind of like spelled out or whatever. But if you're just watching and looking at the live events happening, it feels like what makes that poster not okay are the different color hands on it. So, I mean, I would say that if that's the only reason we're taking it down, that's a problem. We're obviously in a point in our time where, you know, Abby didn't feel welcome in school. She just showed up as a person of color, and that's what made her feel unwelcome because of the reaction other kids were having.
As a teacher, I would say, I can't speak on behalf of the district, but I would say, you know, I do think that I'm glad that we're having this conversation. This isn't a conversation that we need to have in our schools, but also I feel like this is a conversation that we need to have at our dinner tables too with our kids. I think when we see these posters and we are upset, like everyone should feel welcome, I think this is something that, in my opinion, schools can't just do this alone. Like, we need parents to talk to their kids. We need kids to stand up for what's right. We need other voices to be able to say this isn't okay. So it's not just on these students to continuously stand up for themselves, but there's other kids who also recognize this is wrong. And I feel like it needs to be our job as parents to teach our kids those things. It shouldn't be the responsibility of that should not be just my daughter or other people that are being treated this way to educate. We have the responsibility to talk to our kids and to help them know that this is not okay to joke this way.
Jessica and Adam likened this to the old fable about the boy putting his finger in a dike to keep it from breaking. Bringing it up to teachers and administrators can only do so much. There's only so many holes they can plug without having to address the real problem. And as you heard, that likely begins at home with parents who often have no idea how their kids may be acting at school. Having a direct conversation about what is acceptable and what is not, about how people should be treated and how they shouldn't be treated. But maybe the question should also be asked, if there is a pervasive problem within the West Ada School District, because we have heard from other West Ada parents that it is, should the focus of the district right now be removing posters with varying skin tones from classrooms? Maybe posters with messages about making everyone feel welcome pale in comparison to actually making everyone feel welcome. There's so much concern about who or what is talking the talk right now, when the focus should be on who's actually walking the walk. We would love to be able to have this conversation, at least continue it, with anyone from the West Ada School District. Dr. Derek Bubb or Mr. Marcus Myers from the administration or anyone from the school board. But once again, they have declined every request for an interview, that is, if they responded at all. Earlier this month, congressional Republicans were being advised to avoid holding in-person town halls from GOP leadership because they were showing a tendency to get a little hot, with constituents pushing back on what is happening under President Trump's policies. Even outside of those town halls, these types of protests were popping up all over the country since the beginning of February. They call them 50-51, 50 protests, 50 cities, one day, to demonstrate against the new administration's stance on everything from immigration to the war in Gaza. And they've had several here in Boise, most being held at the state capitol. But today, they moved their movement to a Garden City hotel, where inside one of Idaho's senators was speaking. Aspen Shumpert was there, and Aspen, it looked like there were hundreds of people who showed up to this.
Yeah, definitely hundreds. Protesters say they want to be heard by their elected officials about legislative overreach impacting human rights. They want to know the people elected to represent them have Idahoans' best interest in mind. Each year, the Boise Metro Chamber hosts 2 forums with legislators as guest speakers. Earlier this year, the state superintendent of public instruction, Debbie Critchfield, spoke. Today, it was Senator Mike Crapo's turn. The forum at the Riverside Hotel required pre-registration and payment to attend. It was not open to the public. The group of protesters outside the event told me Senator Crapo hasn't made himself available to take questions or talk with his constituents in person. They say they'll continue to march until they feel heard.
President Trump is turning the United States into a dictatorship. He's ignoring Congress, he's ignoring the voters, he's ignoring the Supreme Court eventually. And I think that we need to let our representatives know that people are scared, people are worried.
Although cameras were not allowed inside the private forum today, I was sitting at a table designated for press to hear what Crapo had to say. He talked for about 20 minutes. He addressed the changes that come with the new administration and what he's been up to since January. The moderator said they had enough time for 5 questions for Crapo following his comments. The questions submitted by members of the audience were about taxes, his stance on the CHIPS Act, and federal layoffs going into fire season. What he did not address was what was happening outside. The hundreds of people on the other side of the hotel doors trying to get his attention. I requested to speak to Crapo either before or after the event, and his team said his schedule would not allow for that today. I have also not heard from event organizers on their stance about protesters being outside of events today.
Okay, it's interesting. I know they were warned not to do these town halls. I was looking it up. Idaho Statesman and the Idaho Democratic Party kind of did this. The last time a town hall was held by Congressman Rush Fulcher, 2024, but the next one was canceled because that one kind of went crazy. Senator Crapo, 2022 was the last time he held a town hall.
Yep.
Jim Risch was in 2020. And then Mike Simpson, the last time he held a town hall open to the public, 2012.
Yeah, and the people that you're mentioning have been a part of these Boise Metro forums before,
Right.
So maybe that's the outlet that they think people can come and address.
Still got to pay to get into it, though.
Still got to pay.
All right. Thank you very much, Aspen. Well, yes, it is St. Patrick's Day, however you may be celebrating. Maybe a day too late for the Boise State Broncos, who could have used some of that luck of the Irish to get picked for the big dance. But they'll be doing another sort of jig in a place as familiar to them as the Green Isle is to the Irish. Also known for pots of gold, by the way. Abby Davis tells us about that and more in today's 411.
Heads up, the Sawtooth Avalanche Center says a powerful storm coming in will cause avalanche conditions to become, quote, downright scary. The agency says large natural and human-triggered avalanches are nearly certain in windy terrain, plus avalanches in sheltered areas will also increase. The Payette Avalanche Center also says it will be very dangerous above 7,000 feet and considerably dangerous below that. They say everyone should avoid dangerous terrain. Boise State's president, Marlene Schramp, may be leaving the university soon. Trump's been talking to the University of Vermont since last month. Now, after 5 years leading the Broncos, she was named the sole finalist for president of the University of Vermont. Trump still has to do on-campus interviews in Vermont this week, so nothing is official yet. The Broncos got more bittersweet news over the weekend. Yesterday, they didn't pop the bubble to make it into the NCAA basketball tournament after losing in the Mountain West Championship. According to the committee, Boise State was the 4th team left out of the tournament. But their season isn't over yet. Today, the Broncos declined their entry into the National Invitation Tournament, and instead will play in the newest postseason tournament, the College Basketball Crown, which has cash prizes. Boise State will face off with George Washington in the first round on March 31st at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Tickets are on sale now, or you can watch on FS1. That's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Davis.
All right, sorry, ran out of time a little bit. We got a few moments here to get to some comments like you sent in from Steve. Get used to Idaho's GOP having only town meetings for party members and paying customers only because no one else seems to really matter to them, says Steve. Meanwhile, how unfortunate that a family has to change their lives to accommodate rampant discrimination. We all know the kids parrot what they hear at home. These posters need to stay up, if for no other reason than to model behavior of good citizens, says Sheila. And that's what they're saying, basically. These conversations do need to start at home, but it wouldn't hurt to have a kind of a reminder up there during the day that, yeah, everyone is welcome. Inclusion, exclusion problem isn't just the West Ada School District thing. No, this comes from the higher ups, D.C. and the Capitol in Boise.